Bulldogs of Mississippi State. Mike Morgan alongside former sharpshooting guard from the Auburn Tigers, Damian Fishback. Great to be with you. The nightcap on this Tuesday evening as Mississippi State gets ready to play their fifth game of the season. 2-2 thus far on the year, and the story for the Bulldogs this year has been and will continue to be, how do you replace this much production? You lose a pair of second-round picks to the NBA. You lose Tyson Carter, a very prominent scorer throughout his 4 years in Starkville, and Nick Weatherspoon as well. They've gone on to bigger and better things. Now, Damian Fishback, they're relying on a couple of ultra-talented guards.
Yeah, they lost some pros, but they're looking for a couple of more pros. DJ Stewart, long, athletic, 6'6", great at changing speeds. And then how about the guy they've been missing? Their floor general, Iverson Molinar. He is terrific when it comes to transition. And how about this? Coach Ben Howland says he thinks he can make the biggest jump that he's seen since Russell Westbrook at UCLA. That says a lot for the future Batman and Robin at Mississippi State.
That is an eye-opening name, no doubt. These are eye-opening numbers thus far for these talented sophomore guards, both averaging over 15 points per game thus far. The opponent tonight from the SWAC is Jackson State, and COVID has certainly been a factor for everybody this year in college basketball, and they are a prime example of that. They should have already played 4 games. They have played 0. They've all been canceled or rescheduled. It's their first game of the year, and when it rains, it pours. Finding out earlier today that they'd be without 3 players, including the 2-time SWAC Defensive Player of the Year, Javius McInnes. The good news is, Damian, they do have the preseason SWAC Player of the Year in Tristan Jarrett.
Yeah, Tristan Jarrett comes back, 6'4", 195-pound senior. He will have to lead the Brownsville, Tennessee native, this Jackson State team. At the end of the day, though, Coach has said that he is not concerned about who's not here. He said his team has to be focused on competing with the guys that are here.
You take a look at the Farm Rich starting 5 for Mississippi State. Those 2 sophomores we talked about. The one senior, Abdul Adu, the SEC's reigning shot block leader. And right on cue, there is one of those key guards we talked about. Iverson Molinar.
Yeah, he does a terrific job of really changing speeds as well. I like that out of both he and Stewart.
Jackson's that Ben Howland told us yesterday, that his team needs to improve on defense. He said if they can defend, they're going to have a good season in Starkville this year, despite what they lost. Ball comes right of the lane. Backing in, turnaround hook shot is off the mark by Tolu Smith, and a foul on the Bulldogs. There is Ben Howland now in his 6th year. Boy, how time flies. Seems like just yesterday he took the job in Starkville. Multiple Final Fours at UCLA. NCAA tournament 2 years ago. That was the first NCAA bid by Mississippi State in a decade. They had the longest drought in the SEC. That drought is over, and now they want to get back.
Well, he's done a tremendous job. When you think about the state that Mississippi State was in when he got the job, the ability to turn it around, both in producing professionals out of Mississippi State and Starkville, as well as reaching his 500th victory the other night. Coach Ben Howland, he mixes confidence and humility, and I can't find anyone that says a negative thing or a negative word about Coach Ben Howland.
Tough take in traffic. And a whistle and a foul. That'll go against Jackson State. There's Wayne Brent, 8th year now at Jackson State. He was a very successful high school coach in the county before he elevated to Division I, and actually just got a contract extension not long ago, so they believe he's going to be around for quite some time.
Well, and spent some time at Ole Miss as an assistant coach, so he's familiar with the SEC. I thought he did a tremendous job last year, as you see Molinar with another basket. He's a no-nonsense coach. He's real quiet and not flamboyant. The hardest players are the guy who are going to play on his basketball team.
How about Iverson Molinar? A quick 7 points. We haven't even played 3 minutes of ball yet. Inside. Tolu bobbles it, gets it back, and gets the basket.
Well, and this is where you can see the challenge for Jackson State. It's basically they have 2 posts that are going against the depth of 4 or 5 post men for Mississippi State. They're going to have to try to play small ball, in my opinion, at some point tonight to use their speed versus the size of Mississippi State.
Abdul Adu gets his first rebound, and then a 3 on the other end. There's the other guard. You called him Batman and Robin. Looks like a couple of Batman right now. DJ Stewart with the triple, his first basket. Molinar has 7.
Well, you mentioned that the coach, Ben Howland, said that he would put his 2 guards up against anyone in the league, and obviously they have experience. DJ Stewart, let's remember now, he was the 2nd-ranked prospect out of Mississippi in the class of 2018 behind no other than Robert Woodard. And so when you see your teammate that's playing for the Sacramento Kings and you see what he did in such a short period of time, it can't help but give him the same type of confidence that I believe is going to allow him for a breakout year this season.
Stewart out of Grace, Mississippi. Molinar, the other talented guard that we were alluding to in the open. Ben Howland plucked him out of California, of course, a state that he's very familiar with during his time coaching UCLA. Originally from Panama City, Panama. An early 7-point cushion for Mississippi State.
Well, when I spoke with Coach Brent earlier, he talked about the fact that he was not going to try to get up and down. They like to play half court, but that he had to change up his style a little bit because of the way, because of not having those players here. And so realistically, I look for a change, as you see James with that shot. I look for a change in tempo and pace as this game goes on.
Lead down to 4 for Mississippi State. Pass inside, little mid-range jumper, misses everything, and then trying to tightrope the baseline was McClellan. He can't do it, and it'll remain Bulldog basketball. Mississippi State last year, of course, high expectations with that NBA talent, with a number of players coming back. Ben Howland told us he really thought if there was an SEC tournament, they could have made a run. But, of course, there wasn't, and in the regular season, they didn't pull off the amount of success that maybe a lot of people thought. This year's team, a different makeup, but you never know. Sometimes that works out for the better. Nice stick back. No, can't get it. A couple of good looks at the rim for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I love the fight that Jackson State is showing here early. No back down whatsoever. And that's all that the coach wanted them to compete. At the end of the day, that's exactly what we're seeing here. 2 teams competing, and I can't wait to see the finish.
Abdul Adu has got 190 career blocks, but maybe even more impressive, he's got a college degree, and that pleased his family to no end.
For my Adu, I'm proud of him, and I want the good God to bless him and long life for him.
I want to congratulate you for the achievements you have done so far, and I pray you move to greater heights and become one of the best basketballers that have ever lived.
Well, how awesome is that? That is coming to you from Lagos, Nigeria. And, of course, that was a surprise. Abdul Adu, who his family is in Nigeria, was not expecting that, but a pleasant surprise for him. And what a pleasant surprise he has been. He was highly recruited, but you're talking about a guy that has surpassed even expectations. You look at the career numbers, 190 blocks, 597 rebounds. He's making his 102nd career start. And when you listen to Ben Howell and Damian talk about Abdul Adu, he talks about him in such glowing terms of just a model citizen, great young man, great leader, everything that you would love to have in your locker room.
Well, you got to think about that, Mike. Think about the sacrifices that not only he had to make, but his family had to make for him just to get here. And then the inability to go back and see his family since coming to the States. I love it when you're able to see situations like that where the families can come over and surprise them. Those are some of the best stories. And I think for Mississippi State, that would be something that would be tremendous if that was something that they could do.
Terrific by that program and everybody instrumental in getting those videos together. Well, we're in a Zoom world. Why not get some videos from overseas, right? That is the benefit of technology today. Kick basketball on Jackson State. The Tigers were 15-17 last year in the SWAC. They ended the season on a high note. They were playing their best basketball before, of course, the season was halted.
What you notice, Mike, is that Jackson State is doing a lot more jumping. They're trapping more than they typically do. They're trying not to allow Mississippi State to get comfortable, really trying to make the game ugly, if you will, and it's working.
Shot missed, and a rebound cleared by Adu. Hand transfer from Louisiana Lafayette, the same program that also had Jalen Johnson before he transferred out of there to Mississippi State. Those two were teammates as Ragin' Cajuns.
Yeah, Calvin
Jalen Johnson.
Well, obviously they played together, but for Jackson State, Calvin Temple is important because of his speed, and Molinar is sizzling hot right now.
Oh my goodness, 10 points already.
But right now, I see for Jackson State the competition that they were talking about earlier.
Mississippi State 3 for 3 from downtown in this game. Molinar is a perfect 4 for 4 from the field with 10 points. Now checking in for the Bulldogs, one of the more exciting and electric freshmen you're going to see this year in the league, and Davon Smith, a high rising guard out of Loganville, Georgia, Grayson High School, prominent football and basketball program in the Peach State. And another top 100 recruit brought in by Ben Howland. Strong take, blocked but a foul. That'll go against Tolu Smith, the 6'11 sophomore.
Extremely nice job of Jackson State continuing to maintain their patience. Oftentimes, and particularly when you have schools that are mid-majors or non-power conferences, they come in intimidated. You have to remember last year, this Jackson State team played the likes of a UNLV, played a number 2 Baylor. So they're not intimidated at all. And you've seen that out of the SWAC, Mike. You've seen teams like Texas Southern and Southern, those teams that go on and you see them as bye games, but they make those games a lot more challenging than you may think.
Down to a 4-point game, under 14 and a half to go, first half.
I like the
State's on a
change up of zone. 1-2-2 now by Jackson State.
Adu goes to work, but an offensive foul. Nice job defensively holding his ground. Darius Hicks, a transfer from Eastern Kentucky.
Well, Abdul Adu, we talked about everything that he does off the floor. On the floor, I think he's a tremendous glue guy, Mike. Now, offensively, I think he can continue to improve. That's where he could probably have his most improvement. He blocks shots. He often completes the defensive possession with him being the one that gets the rebound. He helps. He's the biggest helper on Mississippi State. But offensively, he's just got to continue to maintain his patience. He's so big and strong. I think he just has to continue to work on his touch and his footwork.
I like this pace. We've played 6 minutes. That was the first turnover of the game. Calvin Temple with a runner off the window and in.
You want a clean basketball game, huh?
I want a clean game, Fish. You know how these games are sometimes. November, December, things can get a little bit ugly. So far, it's been a clean game. Pass down low and a hold on Darian Wilson, giving up a lot of size to Javian Davis. Our college basketball doubleheader for next Tuesday right here on the SEC Network will feature number 12 Tennessee hosting Appalachian State in Knoxville at 7. And then Furman battles the Crimson Tide and Nate Oates at 9 o'clock. Tennessee picking up a win earlier tonight. They haven't had a chance to play many games in Knoxville, but a good-looking team nonetheless, Fish.
Yeah, you talk about a good mixture of incoming recruiting class along with players that are coming back. Of course, John Fulkerson and the job, Hall of Fame coaching, Coach Rick Barnes. And I like that Alabama team as well. I think they've got the best backcourt, or potentially the best backcourt in the SEC. Calvin
Temple buries the triple from the wing, and all of a sudden Jackson State has its first lead of the night. You and I will have that Alabama team against Clemson on Saturday in Atlanta. This will be a really good SEC-ACC matchup. Turnover, just losing the basketball that time was Molinar. And this is everything you wanted for a start if you're head coach Wayne Brent.
Well, right now, Coach Wayne Brent is winning this basketball game with his non-negotiables. If there's a loose ball, he says that his team has to be the first to get it. They're defending every possession. They're trying to make Mississippi State settle from behind the three-point line. And they've also changed defenses up a little bit. But most of all, they're not intimidated. They are not scared here on the road in Starkville.
Hicks with a square and fire. Tigers up by 3. Pass inside, double team, and a travel.
Love it.
Javian Davis was just convinced he was going to shoot no matter what, but clearly double team down low.
Yeah, Davis.
At SmileDirectClub.com.
11:48 to play in Starkville. Mike Morgan, Damian Fishback. Great to be with you this Tuesday night. Jackson State with an impressive 8-0 run to take a 3-point lead. We talked about, Fish. This was one of the teams that really was bitten hard by the COVID bug. They were not able to play their first 4 games. This is their first game of the year. And then you throw on top of that 3 players out tonight, including substitution, as you know, for gameplay. But so far, they've looked well.
Yeah, when I spoke with Coach Wayne Brent earlier, you know, he talked about some of the challenges that they went through, right? So they had negative tests, and let's remember, this is a team that didn't practice until last Friday because they had already been off for 2 weeks because of COVID-19. So they had limited practice time, and then when they try to get on the bus, they have, because of COVID protocols, where they have 3 guys who aren't able to play in tonight's game. And that's just summarizing the season. But when I spoke with him, he said, we're not having any excuses. I've already told our guys, we can't control who is not here. But from the guys who are here, I want to see who competes. And then once we get our guys back, we'll see how we perform versus Ole Miss, versus Alabama A&M, and going forward.
Davis misfiring on the first free throw. Transfer from Alabama, originally from Canton, Mississippi. Back to a 2-point game. Jackson State has not turned the ball over yet in this game. And, of course, the moment I say that, there's number 1. Inside, and that's going to be a block foul on the Tigers. They got number 4. That's Tristan Jarrett, who's actually been pretty quiet so far.
Well, give a lot of credit. Javion Davis does a nice job of running the floor, and I love his high energy. You know, typically you can have big drop-offs when you go from the starting 5 to the bench, but I don't think Mississippi State's going to have that problem. And you see not only in tonight's game, but in games before, you've seen them play both Davis and Abdul Adu together, which gives them multiple bigs. A lot of teams don't have those options and definitely don't take advantage of those options in today's game.
Design play off the inbound pass for Jalen Johnson, who misfires. Deep 3 on the way. Knocked down. Nothing but net for Jarrett, the preseason SWAC Player of the Year.
Yeah, he felt nice after making that shot as well. I actually thought Javion Davis was playing good defense. He moved his feet, contested the shot, but just better offense on that play.
Stop and pop off the mark for Smith. Tigers in transition from way downtown, and a long rebound for Jackson State into the hands of McClellan. Shot clock at 9. Now at 3. Gotta have it. And Adu is there to clean it up. Now the Bulldogs in transition. Tough shot, hanging and firing, was Johnson.
Yeah, you give him a little too much credit. I think that's a bad shot. Right now for Mississippi State, they've got to be patient. You've got the speed of Jackson State versus the size of Mississippi State. This should not be hard for Mississippi State. You want to pound the basketball inside on the offensive end.
There's the quick hands by Smith. Smith takes it strong. I'm going to use Damien's line. Bad shot.
Absolutely. You know, you've still got some youth on this basketball team for Mississippi State versus many more veterans for Jackson State. And so you have to have leadership on this basketball team, whether that's Stewart, whether that's Abdul Adu.
The Bulldogs have missed 10 of their last 11 from the field, including the last 6. Really haven't had many good looks. That wasn't bad, but it rattles out for Smith.
No, I like that shot. Defense was out of position in transition. But for Mississippi State here, you don't want to play from behind. I love the fact that Jackson State has come out and really thrown the first punch here on the road in their very first game of the year.
Oh, double pivot by Jarrett, rims off. Smith lobs it down low.
There you go.
And finally, working the post, they find Davis, and he draws the foul. A considerable size difference down low tonight for Mississippi State. You would expect to see more paint touches.
Yeah, well, you're looking on the interior, and, Wilson is 6'4", 200 pounds, right? And so night in and night out, if you're 6'4" versus me, versus I'm Davis and I'm 6'7", 6'8", then I shouldn't be able to be stopped on the interior. Mississippi State just has to display the patience to go inside and make Jackson State pay the price.
Mississippi State has not hit a field goal since the 14:54 mark. And they'll take the free throw here to close to within 4.
Javian Davis playing with a lot of confidence. There's so many times that you see transfers. It's not because it's a bad school or a bad kid. A lot of times these young men and women just need a fresh start.
Shot clock down to 7. Now 3. And a walk before the extra pass. A good defense that time by the Bulldogs. Tolu Smith checking back in for Mississippi State. Bulldogs started the season 0-2, but they were out without the services of Iverson Molinar, and clearly not the same team at that point. They've won their last 2, and really, some people tend to look at all mid-majors alike, but their last 2 wins against mid-majors, quality wins, Damian.
I would agree, and their 2 losses, if you can say quality losses, Clemson, a team who I think is going to do extremely well in the ACC. Brad Brownell doing another good job this year. As you see Stewart with a nice mid-range jump shot. And of course, Liberty, a team that has been giving the SEC problems for years. And right now, give credit, Mississippi State responding to the punch with a couple of jabs of their own, down 2.
Reliable.
We made it.
Moving help. Powered by U-Haul. Your move made easier.
21-19 our score. 2-point game with 8:09 to play in the first half. Mike Morgan, Damian Fishback, glad to be with you here this Tuesday night on the SEC Network. Mississippi State trying to make it 3 in a row. We talked about what Mississippi State did a year ago, preseason polls, and there's a whole lot of talk about Kentucky. We could do a 10-minute segment on the Wildcats right now. We talked about Tennessee, LSU number 3, another loaded team for Coach Wade. I just had Florida the other day, Fish. They look better to me than they were a year ago, and they weren't bad last year. South Carolina, Ole Miss, Missouri. Do not sleep on Missouri. They've already got wins over Oregon and Wichita State, and they return their top 7 or 8 scorers. So when I look at that second half, I see a number of teams that I still would not want to play.
Well, and you know, the SEC goes out and they continue to schedule aggressively year in and year out. And when you lose the amount of professional athletes, 12, 6 in the first round and 6 in the second, as the SEC does, it is suffering from its own success this year. But it's still early, and I think because of what has happened with Kentucky, who's played quality teams, people are questioning the league. But this league is going to have another quality year, and I think produce more pros again this season with some success on the court as well.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about Alabama or Arkansas. There's a number of teams in that middle that certainly have a chance to contend for an NCAA tournament bid against this year. Two-point game, 7.5 to go here from Starkville. All of a sudden, Jackson State has been bitten by the turnover bug. 6 turnovers in the last 5 minutes. So it was a clean game. Ball goes inside. Tolu Smith did not finish it, and Adu gets hammered on the foul. Tolu Smith has struggled here early on, and Abdul Adu at 6'11". There's about one thing if you're Jackson State you can do, and that's foul.
Well, this is what you like to see if you're a Mississippi State fan. They just have so much size, and if you're a basketball player, I think we've all done this before where you didn't quite get up as high as you thought you were going to get, but I like the way that Abdul Adu attacked the rim. And most of the time, if you attack the basket like that, you're either going to score or get fouled.
He's got a chance to finish as one of the SEC's all-time shot block leaders. And of course, number 1 on that list is already a former Bulldog, and Jarvis Fernardo. You know what number 2 is, don't you?
Yeah, you're behind Bernardo and Eric Dampier. You hold yourself in pretty good class, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. They've had a few good rim protectors there. Number 2 all-time in the SEC, one Shaquille O'Neal, who averaged over 4 block shots a game during his time in Baton Rouge.
Well, I think his son is going to play well with LSU this year. Watched him against St. Louis, even though they had a loss. I think he can be one of the best rebounders, if not the best rebounder in the SEC this year.
Tie game at 21 all, 6.5 to play. Guy who's been quiet of late is Molinar. There's a strong take to the basket by Tolu Smith, the sophomore from Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, will go to the line for a pair.
Mike, this is a learning lesson for young players that are out there. Now, obviously, what you see on highlights are three-point shots and dunks. But in a game like this, you have to realize your advantages and disadvantages, which Mississippi State has done. Jackson State went on a little run earlier, but since then, Mississippi State took their time and now are beginning to pound the basketball inside.
Well, this Saturday, we got a triple header of college football here on the SEC Network. Georgia and Mizzou. Missouri's playing really good football. They've won 3 in a row. Tennessee takes on Vanderbilt. And the nightcap will be at Davis-Wade Stadium on the campus of Mississippi State. The Auburn Tigers will come to town to take on the Pirate and the Mississippi State Bulldogs.
Mike, is it safe to say that there's going to be an SEC team in the college football playoff?
There's going to be at least one, my friend, possibly 2. That was not called, but the bank was very kind to Quinlan.
How you gonna take it away like that? You didn't know.
Oh, hey, it still
Zeke
counts.
might have called that, right?
If you believe that, I got some stuff in my attic I want to sell you, along with some squirrels. And double dribble called on the Tigers, turning it over. No, I think if Alabama wins, they're in. If Florida wins, you could have Florida and Alabama in. And then, of course, A&M's not outlawed. There you see the bank 3 from the wing by Quinlan. Transfer from Montana State. It's been tough to navigate this year in a football season with COVID, but we've gotten through it, and I'm glad we have. It's not going to be easy with college basketball. We've already had a number of games canceled. A number of players have had to sit out. It won't be easy in basketball, but by golly, we're here. I'm happy we're here. I don't want to go another year without March Madness, Fish. I was borderline depressed when that happened a year ago. We were in Nashville for the SEC tournament, about to call some games, and that's when we got the word. And, of course, the sports world, and for that matter, the world in general, has never been the same. I'm just glad that we've got hardwood to watch once again, broadcast once again, and Tolu Smith's glad that he's picking up some points once again down low.
Yeah, they found out where their bread is buttered, which is going to be on the interior. So I'm anxious to see if Coach Ben Howland just continues this strategy to pound the basketball inside.
Drive and kick into the corner. And Taylor turns it over.
You know, what you talk about as far as the challenges that have gone on across the country, and in particularly in college athletics, Dane Bradshaw in the previous game against Georgia commended the commissioner of the SEC. And I think in both circumstances, both in calling the SEC tournament last year and then again in pushing through the adversity that we've seen in college athletics this year, as well as ESPN. There's a lot of people who are doing a lot more than what meets the eye in order to get these games on, from the officials to the commissioners and the television.
Well, you know, far be it from me to point out, as someone who works college football and loves college football, there was no question where the best game plan came from, and it was from Greg Sankey. I think the rest of the college football world kind of looked at his direction and realized there's the guy to lead the way and did the same with the SEC basketball tournament last year. Molinar on a steal. Molinar taking it all the way and had it blocked. Molinar on the return. Pull-up jumper off the mark. Tap up, no good. Flat-footed follow, no good by Post. A scrum, and we're going to have a jump ball with the possession arrow in favor of Jackson State. A good hustle there by Davis.
Yeah, good hustle on both sides. Let's remember, when you look at Jackson State, they're undersized right now, right? But they're doing exactly what Coach Brent asked them to do. They are competing on every single play, and that's all you can ask for.
We had a Jackson State player whistled for flopping. You don't see that a whole lot in the college game, but it is a rule. I actually had a game a few years ago, Fish, where a player was called for a technical foul for flopping. You never flopped, did you, in your day?
Oh, yeah. Everybody flops from time to time. Are you kidding me?
I was trying to give you credit for just being a defensive standout. But if you don't want to go along with that story, we'll go with the flopping.
I think everybody who stepped in between the lines has flopped at one time during their career.
Long three on the way. Stewart can't find it. Second chance this time by Molinar. He can't connect.
Well, Iverson Molinar has continued to be missed. A couple of losses against Liberty and Clemson, but since he's been back, he's been the true difference maker. We talked about him in transition, and defensively, he's been an assassin as well.
Not going anywhere. We'll see in a few.
We'll see if that's the case. I'm not 100% sold on that. There's something to be said about playing at least close to a full slate of games, and that obviously is not going to happen for the Buckeyes. Not a lot of drama in the football playoff rankings earlier tonight, which you probably saw on ESPN. You're watching some college basketball here with us on the SEC Network. Tie ball game, Jackson State and Mississippi State with 3:34 to play. What has surprised you so far, Fish, about this game?
Well, just the way that Mississippi State has had an advantage, but they've been immature in the way that they've played the basketball game. And you got to remember, they're still young, but if they had more veterans, then they would just throw the basketball inside every single play. Because once you are able to throw the basketball inside, then you would have Jackson State that has to converge, which would allow the guards to open it up. But me as a former guard, that's hard to do. When you have that basketball, it's kind of like a hot potato. You want to get your shots up as well, so it's hard to have the discipline to know that you're throwing the basketball on the interior every time.
Yeah, and if you're just joining us, it was a guard that was red hot early on. Iverson Molinar had 10 points in a blink of an eye. He has not scored since, and Mississippi State has missed 19 of its last 22 shots. And that has helped open the door to Jackson State of the SWAC Conference, playing its first game of the year, much like Tennessee in the SEC. There have been so many teams. Florida had 3 games knocked out early on. Kentucky had a game knocked out in the first week of the season. There's an open three and nothing but nylon that time by Quinlan.
Jackson State has been extremely impressive to me, in spite of the fact not having a leading defensive player of the year and first team all SWAC. I think this is the best first half that Coach Brent could expect out of his basketball team.
Javion Davis gets it down low and draws another foul. So Davis has already been to the charity stripe twice so far. He'll have another pair here. Bulldogs 5 of 10 from the free throw line. Ben Howland was very optimistic when we talked to him about this year's team, and we talked about how high he is on the guards, loves Abdul Adu, of course. He believes in time Tolu Smith will be a go-to guy, the sophomore who's been rather quiet in this game. He's got good players off the bench like Smith and Jalen Johnson and Davis.
I would agree. And let's remember, Mississippi State candidly shot 29% from the free throw line in their loss versus Clemson. So they lost by double digits, but only, I think, 10 or 11 points. And I think they were 8 of 27 or something close to that from the free throw line. So this is a team that's proven that they can play with anyone in the country, and that was without Iverson Molinar. And so this is a Mississippi State team that, as they continue to get more games under their belt, I think they have a tremendous amount of potential.
Look out. That was right in our living room. Under 3 minutes to go in a 2-point game. This is the talented freshman Davon Smith. Little shake and bake, stop and pop, and draws the foul. Well, Davon Smith is one of those freakish athletes, the highest vertical leap on the team. He became a YouTube sensation when he was in high school at 5'11" with all kinds of ridiculous dunks in traffic. I've never been too impressed, Damian, by those 6'8" guys that can dunk. Give me a little guy that can jump up in the trees and hammer it down on the big men. Every Saturday morning, we got you set for all the college football games with SEC Nation, hosted by Laura Rutledge, Roman Harper, Tim Tebow, and Jordan Rogers. Live reports from all the stadiums. And you, the fans, will still be a part of the show as well. SEC Nation, presented by Johnsonville, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 9 Central on the SEC Network. State continues to lack efficiency at the free throw line. And this is exactly the kind of game that Jackson State would want if you're going to pull off an upset. Deep three on the way. Second attempt off the mark, and Molinar, make it Johnson rather, skying for the rebound. Jumper knocked down, first bucket for Smith, the freshman.
Well, he shows tremendous composure, one of the highest ranked recruits to come through Mississippi State. And you think about the job that Coach Ben Howland has done. I think 8 top 100 recruits in the short period that he's been here. Smith is someone that's going to be extremely successful in this Bulldog jersey.
And Smith showing a little bit of hops on that rebound. A little loose with the handle, but finds an open teammate. Who knocks down the three? Jalen Johnson, the transfer from Louisiana. And the senior gives Mississippi State a 4-point lead.
Johnson is one of the most consistent three-point shooters on this basketball team, or what Coach Ben Howland says he expects to be one of the most consistent three-point shooters on this basketball team for the Bulldogs.
Jarrett on the response on the other end. Leading scorer for the Tigers. It's a 1-point game. How about another three? How about another make? Molinar, he's been quiet for about the last 15 minutes, but 13 now for the game.
Yeah, it looks like someone took the lid off of the rim for both of these teams. Jarrett has been hot. Let's see if Coach Brent tries to get it back to him.
Five-second differential, game clock to shot clock. James up top. Shot clock at 0. They cannot get it off. Still 5 seconds left for Mississippi State to try to get one more basket.
Plenty of time for Smith to get full court if they get it to him.
Here he is. Smith probing. Smith has it blocked. Good defense there by Jackson State. Good performance by Jackson State overall. 34-30. Our halftime score from the Hump in Starkville. And the only thing that could make this Tuesday night better is to hear from our main man, Dari Noka.
Build the ultimate Power Treads course. Must be 18 or older to order. Power Treads.
Back with you from Starkville, Mississippi State leading Jackson State 34-30. At the end of the day, Damian Fishback, it is still a make shots game, and Jackson State knocked down plenty of them in the first half.
Yeah, absolutely. When you think about the small ball versus the bigs of Mississippi State, I'd give the credit to Jackson State. Undersized but not outmanned. A nice job by Tristan Jarrett. Shot 39% from the three-point last year, shooting 3 for 4. And then Iverson Molinar. How different is this Mississippi State team with him on the floor? He is their floor general, not only able to knock down the three-point shot, but keeps them more stable and is able to distribute the basketball as well. It's going to be the shooting versus the rebounding of Mississippi State.
And how about that shooting for Jackson State? 7 for 14, a cool 50% from downtown in the first half. Mississippi State shot just 34% as a team. Turnover bug caught Jackson State late in the first half to the tune of 11. What do we expect Mississippi State to do perhaps better in this half?
Well, let's remember that Abdul Adu went out early in that first half with a couple of early fouls. He is so critical. We talked about him being a glue guy, in particular his offensive rebounding. So I look for him to establish
points. We saw 8 lead changes in the first half, 2 ties. And the all-important opening stanza of the second half so far favoring the Bulldogs. Adu draws a double. Kick out pass, sets up the open 3. Hey, we've got some flow. Molinar on the triple. And a timeout called by Jackson State.
That's what we talked about, Mike. Throwing the basketball on the interior. We always talk about playing the game inside out. Look how easy this is, Mississippi State. You draw 2 and nothing but the bottom of the net. Iverson Molinar. Tonight he's decided to be Batman.
Mississippi State on a 7-0 run, taking an 11-point lead. Of course, the Bulldogs now led by Ben Howland in his 6th season in Starkville. 11 career NCAA tournaments, going back to his days with a number of schools, including UCLA and Pitt. 3 straight 20-win seasons in Starkville, and recently picked up win number 500 overall, win number 100 for Mississippi State. And obviously, Fish, when we talk about this league, and you and I have been covering it for a while, I think the thing that has improved most dramatically, top to bottom, is the coaching. And with that has come the success.
Well, when you think about the job that Coach Ben Howland has done, Mississippi State over the last few seasons has won 70 games. Now, that's only to trail Auburn, Kentucky, and Tennessee, and they're tied with LSU. You think about the likes of a Witherspoon that's went to the Spurs, and you think about Reggie Perry with Brooklyn, and Woodard with the Sacramento Kings, Tyson over in Greece. You've got guys like Lamar Peters and Eric Holman in Germany and Turkey. So the job that he's done in turning around this program, I think, has went under the radar, and it's happened at quite a few schools in this league, which is the reason why you see the success occurring.
Of course, you had great success for a while under Rick Stansberry, who's now coaching Louisiana Lafayette. And then you had the Rick Ray era. The program was struggling a bit when Ben Howland got the job. And since then, as you mentioned, the talent has elevated, and so too has the win totals. Inside and drawing the hack was Tolu Smith.
Yeah, I like Tolu Smith. Tolu Smith has a little Reggie Perry in him. And when I say Reggie Perry, he didn't have his basketball IQ, or at least I haven't seen that to date, or his jump shot or passing ability, but he does have his toughness. He's got his physical presence on the interior, and he may have a better motor than Reggie Perry had when he was at Mississippi State. I really like Tolu Smith, and I think him along with Abdul Adu and this backcourt that we've talked about and labeled as our Batman and Robin make them a formidable opponent when it comes to league play.
I like Tolu Smith as well, and so did Rick Stansbury, who is the coach of Western Kentucky. I misspoke earlier. And of course,
I was going to let it go. You just called yourself out, Mike.
Hey, look, I'm entitled to one turnover throughout the night, right? As long as I'm giving you assists and I get just one turnover, I'm a happy camper.
You're a good point guard, man.
I try,
Great point
man.
guard.
I'm just trying to let you fill it up from outside. But, of course, Rick Stansbury did a sensational job in Starkville for a number of years. His son, Isaac Stansbury, is on the roster. There you see Isaac.
Yeah, Rick Stansbury had a ton of quality years, and I think he has a good team at Western Kentucky. Actually played Louisville well for a while in their previous game, and then I think they just got a little frustrated on the road. But Charles Bassey is a tremendous big man, and I can't wait to see how the Hilltoppers finish this season.
It was weird those couple years that Rick was out of the game, and you'd see him when we would do a game in Starkville. You just kind of see him hanging out when he wasn't coaching in college at that point. And it's good to see Rick doing what he does best, coaching college basketball. Right now, Mississippi State doing what it does best, and that's playing a little bully ball down low, up by 14 now.
So, Mike, if you're Jackson State now, you've come to the realization that they're just bigger and stronger. And Coach Brent knew that. He talked about that. He talked about he was concerned about his bigs getting in foul trouble because Mississippi State has a plethora of big men. And so what they have to make the decision now on is, if the shot's not falling, do we go in and challenge the bigs of Mississippi State, which is what they tried to do there, and see if they can get fouls. I like Tristan Jarrett. I like his mindset because you got to go in and try in order to open things up if you're not making shots.
Mississippi State has outscored Jackson State 10-0 here in this second half. 16-footer left short. So many teams right now still trying to find out who they are and what they are. One thing about this league from a year ago, you think about all the outstanding guards we lost, either to the NBA or graduation. A lot of them point guards. There's an and one. Tolu Smith enforcing his will down low.
Yeah, Tolu Smith's just too big, too strong, and this is what I was talking about in the first half. You know, Mississippi State, we talked about their good guard play, and you asked, I wonder what Coach Ben Howland said at the half. I'm going to tell you what he said. He said, we're throwing the basketball inside. Let's make this game easy. And Tolu Smith is one of the recipients of them taking the basketball onto the interior.
11 points now for the sophomore. And the lead swells to 17 for Mississippi State. Nice pass down low. And a bump foul on Adu. That'll be his third. And that'll bring us to our first media timeout of half number 2. All Bulldogs to start off the second half. They lead it by 17.
$9.99.
I mentioned Davon Smith was one of the most electric guards in the country coming out of high school, Grayson High School near Atlanta. Again, he was 5'11". He's grown about an inch. These are dunks you see somebody about 6'6", 6'7" making on the routine. Look at this. I mean, a little guy, but put together some massive highlight reels. We're told he has a running vertical jump of 46.5 inches. That's number one on the team. And you can see why he was highly coveted by programs all across the country. Been rather quiet, still trying to find his way. Surrounded by a couple of veteran guards and Molinar and Stewart, but certainly the sky is the limit for that young man.
He represents what has continued to come out of the state of Georgia now, year after year. It is the Mecca in the South when it comes to producing basketball players and professional athletes. I mean, there's a pro basketball or football player on every corner in Georgia. But give credit, Coach Ben Howland has done tremendous recruiting regardless of where it's at, whether it's Georgia, whether it's taking care of his backyard at Mississippi. But Smith is definitely one of many to come out of Georgia.
Right now, Jackson State would settle for any kind of basket. A dunk, a layup, a three, a putback. A lid has been on the bucket since intermission for the Tigers. 17-point lead for Mississippi State. Oh, no.
Love it. Well, as watching film on Javion Davis in the games before, he's got a confident stroke. He's got a stroke that I think will only continue to improve. He's actually pretty mobile at 6'9", 245 pounds, and I think he's going to be a nice addition for Mississippi State this year.
There's the first bucket for Jackson State. It belongs to Darius Hicks. Been a long road to get to Jackson State for Darius Hicks. He started off at NC State, then went to Eastern Kentucky, and finally landed with the Tigers.
And now we've seen our first shift really into this half-court zone, and I like the chess move by Coach Brent. The size is just overpowering, and Mississippi State has now made a decision to take the basketball in the interior. And this will be good work for Mississippi State as well, because the more successful they are on the inside, the more teams that are going to try to play them zone and make them settle from the perimeter. You see the points in the paint, 16-4 already by Mississippi State.
Difficult pass stolen away. Stewart on the turnover. It's not been the ideal game for DJ Stewart thus far. 5 points. Turnover there. We've seen a lot of Molinar, who's on his way perhaps to a career night. Would like to see more out of DJ Stewart in the second half. He's been terrific thus far in the early part of the season for Mississippi State. Baseline jumper is knocked down by Hicks.
Have to remember Hicks was at NC State originally. Darius Hicks, a guy who's more familiar with this level of play and a guy who I did not think would be intimidated, finally steps up in this second half for Jackson State.
Inside, Tolu Smith. You got Tolu at 6'11". You've got Abdul Adu at 6'11". And we've talked quite a bit about Javion Davis at 6'9", 245. So they've got some beef inside. And a rebound for Tolu Smith. You could hear him screaming, "I got it, I got it." Inside, and going to the free throw line will be Javion Davis. Our college basketball doubleheader next Tuesday. Number 12 Tennessee hosting App State. Furman and Tuscaloosa to take on Nate Oates and the exciting Crimson Tide. You and I will get a look at that Alabama offense on Saturday, Fish, as they will take on the Clemson Tigers. Always fun when those two teams meet in any sport, SEC, ACC. What do you like about Alabama thus far?
Well, Quinterly is such a good point guard. I got a chance to see him actually go head-to-head against Kyra Lewis when I went to watch them practice before the season last year. Didn't have a chance to get him eligible to play last year, but I knew at that point that when Kyra Lewis left that they would have a tremendous point guard. And you got to give a lot of credit to Antoine Petway, who's been there for a long time at Alabama now. Obviously, Coach Nate Oates has done a tremendous job in the system and the style in which he plays, which I think has Alabama fans excited. But they have had tremendous guards, Colin Sexton, Kyra Lewis, and now you've got Javon Quinterly along with John Petty, who's back. I just think you've got Shackelford. I just think it's going to be a tremendous year for this Alabama team, even though they stubbed their toe against a good Stanford team.
It's a little hard for me to believe John Petty is still eligible. It feels like he's been there about 8 years. And he's a fun player to watch. And obviously a big asset for Alabama and Coach Oates this year. Foul before the basket. We're going to call an offensive foul on Davis.
Well, look at the size difference. Just put your eyes. Look how much bigger Mississippi State is than Jackson State on the interior.
Open look and knocked down. Big three that time by Darian Wilson.
Brookhaven, Mississippi native, trying to find his stroke a little bit. Much needed. The door isn't closed for Jackson State right now, but they have to make the push right now with this 12:49 left to go to see if they can get this game within single digits, somewhere between the 10 and 5-minute mark.
7-footer Quentin Post checking in for the Bulldogs. The other thing that we should probably expand upon really is what these teams have had to go through. I can't tell you how many times we've heard a coach already talk about not just games being missed or postponed, the amount of practice time that has been missed, the amount of time that you normally would have to gel in the offseason. You're talking to Mike White of Florida the other day. He was saying, we've had a ton of practices where we just had to go skeleton 5-on-0 because the rest of the guys were quarantined. They've had spurts of where you go nearly a week without any activity because of COVID. And so, you know, sometimes you're going to see the brand of basketball this time of year be a little bit ragged at times anyway. I would expect some more of that just as players get in the flow and trying to get to where they're a cohesive unit.
Yeah, I'm actually thoroughly impressed by what I've seen out of college basketball so far. And what you said, they're all valid points, but you've had all of the schools that have to go through the same thing. Now, you had some schools that have had longer pauses, right, that have missed more games, that have gotten later starts. But the fact of the matter is they're not going to be any excuses, because at the end of the day, just like the NBA Finals, whoever wins the NCAA tournament this year, whoever wins the SWAC tournament, the SEC tournament, there's not going to be an asterisk by that. And so the competition and the reality is regardless of what you're facing, that you have to go out and get the job done.
I do think these games are more important than ever to get ready for conference play because of the things that we've been talking about. There's never been less time to prepare for a regular season, so when you get to conference play, typically you've got a lot of reps under your belt. I think these games, not just win and loss, obviously, you always want to build up your resume, but to really gel together as a team, every one of these games, it's not just a data point on a resume, it is a chance for guys to gel with one another. It's college basketball. Everybody's got turnover, right? Everybody's got new players, new starters, guys that they lost, and so it's a work in progress, but I also have been impressed with what we've seen overall. When you consider all those factors, I've been impressed with what we've seen overall thus far in college basketball.
I think the one difference, Mike, that we're going to see is the fact that this season is actually a little bit more special to me. And the reason being, you think about the advantage that these bigger schools have year in and year out. You go to Kentucky and you've got 20,500, or you go to Duke and you got the Cameron Crazies. You go to Auburn, they've got a great fan base there. Now you don't have those thousands of people screaming, and that's something that hurts a lot of the teams who have a lot of young players. They need those fans to pick them up. They don't have them this year. And so as the season continues to go on, I'm anxious to see which teams continue to rise to be able to prove that they're the best teams in the country.
Well, to your point, hey, players are just like us. We're feeding off the crowd sometimes for energy, right? You're not going to have that same buzz in the building. Sometimes you're going to have to create your own energy.
Absolutely.
Under 12 minutes to go, a 20-point cushion for Mississippi State. Good ball movement. And an offensive foul called on Molinar. With 11:25 to go. 20-point lead for Ben Howland and his Mississippi State squad. Damien, take notes. I mean, look at that form. Look how free-flowing those steps are, how graceful. There's a man who's graceful, Colin Crane. He has, again, done a world of good. And if you know anything about college basketball, that is one of the most important positions on any staff. The strength and conditioning coach, Ben Howland, tells us he believes that guy's going to be in the NBA before too long, so they're trying to make the most of it because he has been such an asset to this program.
Yeah, and Coach Ben Howland also said that the guys loved him. You think about the guys that went to the next level. I mean, when you look at the strength and conditioning coach, he's one of the main reasons you get there. You have to put in the work and be willing to be dedicated, but they're going to be NBA ready, and a lot of credit has to go to him. And Coach Ben Howland gave him the credit.
We dusted off the archives. That's a year ago that we took that footage from. Of course, that was pre-COVID, so we could all be a little bit closer together when we're working out and putting on an exhibition. And clearly that was an exhibition, Fish. Did I just see a three fired up by Quentin Post?
Quentin Post actually has a pretty good touch. Coach Ben Howland's allowed him to shoot that three in a couple of games this season.
7-foot sophomore from the Netherlands.
Actually, in that game versus, I think it was North Texas, Quentin Post put him up rather quickly and aggressively. I like his confidence. You know me, I wasn't afraid to shoot. So
no, you weren't. Nothing wrong with a gunner.
We see Coach Brent now going back to the zone to see if he can slow them down a little bit, see if he can get Mississippi State to settle from the perimeter. Got to finish it with the rebound, though.
Slithering in for the rebound was Davis, who's been extremely active in this game tonight.
Well, there's just not a lot that can be done there. Darian Wilson down there trying to battle. But when you look at Javion Davis, he's 6'9", 245. There's just not a lot that you can do if you're Jackson State right now.
7th free throw knocked down by Davis, who has 10 points.
And Mike, I think we need to remind people the fact that obviously Jay McKinnis, first team All-SWAC Defensive Player of the Year, wasn't able to make this trip along with two other teammates because of COVID protocols. And so this Jackson State team, not at full strength, but they're doing what I think Coach Brent asked them to do, which is to compete with the guys who are here.
Yeah, trip to the free throw line for Darius Hicks.
Darius
Quitman,
Hicks,
Mississippi, started his career at NC State, then Eastern Kentucky, and now finishing it off at Jackson State.
Yeah, Mike, he actually usually starts at the power forward or the 4 position. And you see tonight, because of McKinnis being out, he's having to play the 5. And so think about the difference for him, pretty much being the biggest guy on the floor for Jackson State and trying to be their anchor versus a guy like Abdul Adu and Javion Davis for Mississippi State, as well as Tolu Smith.
Lead cut to 19 now for the Bulldogs, trying to win their third straight. Inside, and an easy bucket for Tolu Smith heating up.
How about the pass, though, Mike? You talked about DJ Stewart, who hasn't had a great game offensively, but that really shows the makeup of this basketball team. That's unselfish. He's not worried about getting his points. He made the right play and got it inside to the big man.
The big man, Smith, has 15 points now. Molinar leads all scorers with 16. That's going to be offensive, or is it? Yeah, offensive foul. And as you correctly mentioned, Fish, great defense.
Well, a lot of times people watch plays like this and they say, oh, he was still moving. Remember, as long as he's in legal guarding position, and, you know, that time it was more the dip of the shoulder than anything.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I still hear people say that all the time. Can't be an offensive foul if the defender's moving his feet. It sure can. As long as he's got position, and you can't lower your shoulder and plow over a defender without being an offensive foul. Now, this one's starting to get a little bit out of hand right now for Jackson State. If you're Mississippi State, again, you're still trying to get better and better each and every game, trying to find out your best combinations. We're not that far off from the start of conference play.
No, we're not, and what you're talking about is leadership, right? I look for teams that have leadership. In particular, you mentioned Missouri earlier, a team that I think if they take care of business against Illinois, as you see another basket by Smith, Illinois or Liberty, or both, then they'll definitely be in the top 25. I think they're a potential top 25 team, but they have leadership. They have Tillman back. They've got Pinson. They've got both Drew Smith and Mark Smith, SEC Player of the Week. So they've got a lot of veterans and a tremendous coach in Coach Konzo Martin.
Yeah, I think Missouri's poised for a breakout season. And we were talking about the games that we'll be a part of on Saturday in Atlanta. Mississippi State's got the early session. They'll be taking on Dayton. And Dayton is, I know they lose Obi Toppin, but Dayton is always a tough matchup for anybody.
Absolutely. Coach Anthony Grant has done a tremendous job. And when you talk about last year, that was some of the most disheartening factors for me. When you think about the teams that could have made a run, whether it was Dayton or whether it was Leonard Hamilton and Florida State, whether it was some of the teams in this league. I think Kentucky was a team, Auburn with all those veterans, Mississippi State, would they have been able to make it? But yeah, I think it's going to be a tremendous opportunity for SEC teams in this particular week to prove how good they are.
I think that Florida State game is going to be a whole lot of fun to watch. I think Florida, to me, as I said earlier, with all due respect to Blackshear and Nemhard, who's playing well at Gonzaga, they can now play the pace and the tempo that Mike White wants. Florida State with Leonard Hamilton, seems like they've got about 2 lottery picks every year in Tallahassee. So that'll be a good game to watch to tip things off. And as we always point out, these games now in December mean a whole lot in March. Those are either resume builders or they're not. It's up to you if you can win them. SEC also has the yearly opportunity with the Big 12 later on in late January. But I think that weekend, this coming Saturday, is an outstanding opportunity for this conference.
Absolutely.
Timeout on the floor. It's been the Tolu Smith and Iverson Molinar show. They lead the way for the Bulldogs.
on ESPN.
Yeah, we're inching closer and closer to a playoff, and as always, there's going to be SEC representation. Well, plenty of SEC representation Saturday right here on our airwaves, a triple header of college football. Georgia and Missouri, good matchup to start things off. Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and then, as you see overhead, Davis-Wade Stadium will be lit up. Final regular season game for Mississippi State, and Mike Leach taking on Gus Malzahn of the Auburn Tigers. It's interesting guidelines this year for bowl teams. We could have 2 and 8 teams playing in bowl games because they need the slots with the tie-ins. So if you had a rough year, you might have a chance at a reprieve with a bowl game. I would like to have a reprieve on that shot. But he'll gladly take a block. Inching closer and closer to 200 career blocks. Skying, missing the shot, and then a whistle. DJ Stewart almost had a highlight finish. I thought he might try to jam that one, Fish.
Yeah, listen, it's tough when you've built up a lead and you've gotten comfortable. Right now, up 28 points for Mississippi State. They're getting complacent. You can see hands on their knees, getting pretty comfortable right now. But these are important minutes. These are important minutes for habits going down the stretch for both Mississippi State and Jackson State.
Free throw knocked down by Stewart, 6'6" sophomore out of Grace, Mississippi.
And if you're watching DJ Stewart for the first time, love southpaws. The jump shot looks a little bit prettier, doesn't it, Mike?
It sure does.
DJ Stewart is a guy who I think has an incredible upside. The former players from last year talk about him, and I think he's sincerely going to have a breakout year.
Under 7 minutes to play. Bulldogs trying to make it 3 in a row before they get ready for that matchup on Saturday with the Dayton Flyers.
Even that shot by Ken Evans, very important as you go down the stretch.
Pretty looking shot there by Tolu Smith. He is heated up big time in the second half and now has 19 for the game. (14 of the 19 for Tolu Smith in the second half. As Mississippi State, this was a 4-point game at halftime. State came out in the opening stanza, knocked down just about every shot in sight. Jackson State has not been able to recover. Again, it's the first game of the year for Jackson State. We've already alluded to the fact of how bumpy a road it's been for so many programs. The other thing, too, is that teams, I know it's so easy to just kind of dust off those exhibition games because they don't count, so nobody really cares who wins or loses, but that's another chance at reps. You usually get 1 or 2 of those to kind of have an appetizer before you dive right into the main course. I'd be remiss. Go ahead, Fish.
Well, and I was going to say it's even more critical for the SEC because we talked about it earlier. They had 12 guys that went to the NBA, 6 in the first round, and so you have the snowball effect. You lose those guys, so it's typically a young lead anyway. Then you compound that with the fact that the returning guys this year had no postseason play, so you had no chance to gain that opportunity as we look at some of the draft picks that have left. And then you've got guys that come back this year. They don't get as much practice time. They don't get the exhibition games, and then they play a monster schedule. That's what Kentucky's going through. That's what a lot of schools across the country are going through that are young. But I believe because of the coaches in this league, they'll figure it out.
You saw Maxey on the screen there. Emmanuel Quickly, of course, who I thought was one of the best players in all college basketball last year. He was a first rounder. They're both gone. You mentioned Kentucky. All right, what's going on in Lexington? People want to know because we haven't seen Kentucky play like this in a long time.
Yeah, the best thing to happen was what Coach Cal did, and he did it after their first victory. He said, blame me, don't blame these kids, because as talented as they are, he talked about the fact that they hadn't had exhibition games, right? And missing Keon Brooks, so not having a player that has played in that jersey. And Kentucky is a huge school that missed out not only some of the guys in the draft that I think potentially could have went higher, but 4 of those guys like a Keon Brooks being able to gain confidence, other guys gaining confidence. Kentucky's going to be fine. I think they have to get physically and mentally tougher. They have to figure out how they want to play. But most importantly, every single day in practice, they better be pushing each other to get better, because they haven't had as many of those game-type experiences. They've got to get it in practice.
Well said. I think they've got to figure out what they're going to do at the point guard spot as well. I mean, last year you had multiple guys that could play that position and play it well. And right now they have not had good play from that position at all. Time now for tonight's All-State Protection Spotlight, brought to you by All-State. How about some Abdul Adu coming at you?
Well, we talk about glue guys. He does it on the defensive end. Offensively, he does it with more of offensive rebounds, but defensively, he is a rim protector, and the rim protectors allow little guards like us the liberty of being able to pressure. They bail us out when our guys get by us, and Abdul Adu is one of those guys that his teammates all appreciate.
Only 1 block for Adu tonight. The SEC's reigning blocks leader. 2 free throws upcoming for Jackson State.
So when we talk about, and you see Abdul Adu there, when we talk about the size differential for Jackson State not having those 3 guys, it hurt them the most on the interior. Think about it. They're getting out-rebounded by 20 by Mississippi State, and they had 17 turnovers. So Mississippi State, give them credit. Think about how many more possessions those are when you have 6 less turnovers and you have 21 more offensive rebounds. That's one of the reasons why you see the differential in the score as well.
Yeah, and if you're Mississippi State, I mean, this is the kind of result you want to see. You want to impose your will. They obviously have an advantage in size and depth. Jackson State on top of that, playing shorthanded tonight. First half was a little bit too close for comfort, but in the second half, they turned it into another gear.
But I think there's a lot of optimism on the other side as well. Even though Jackson State hadn't played well tonight, you look at Johnny Jones and Texas Southern, the job they've done. You look at in the SWAC where you've got guys like Deion Sanders here at Jackson State. A lot of optimism with some of the NBA coaches, Mo Williams at Alabama State, Lindsey Hunter at Mississippi Valley. I think there's a lot of optimism in the SWAC right now. Jackson State right now just doesn't have their full complement of players and had a tough night.
Bumped and fouled was Anderson Garcia. So he'll go to the line when we come back. Final 3:42 from Starkville coming your way.
Christmas brighter together with Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Coming up next, the handsome trio that you see on your screen will be on SEC Now. Complete breakdown of tonight's games, and of course, a whole lot of talk about the latest college football doings, including, among other things, Ohio State, Michigan being canceled. And that could have a ripple down effect for perhaps the SEC team that does not win the SEC championship game. They'll give you more details on that.
What's the ripple down effect, Mike? What's the ripple down effect? I'm curious, Mike.
Well, the ripple down effect is this, and I know fans in Columbus will not appreciate this, but I think you could make a strong argument, as good as Ohio State is, and I'm not arguing that they're not one of the most talented teams in the country, but they're going to play 6 games in all likelihood. You've got teams that are playing 10, 11 games. I realize they would have been favored in those other games, but man, upsets happen every year in college football. You're going to give a team with basically a half a resume a ticket to a 14 playoff. I don't know if everybody on the committee is going to see it that way. And if they don't, that opens up the door for a second SEC team.
What about the fans that asked you, Mike, why don't we go to 6 teams and then include a team like Ohio State?
Well, look, if it's up to me, we'd have an 8-team playoff. We would have had it 7 years ago when we started this thing, but unfortunately they're not asking and they're not changing. They've had the opportunity. They move at a glacial pace, as we know, and I think we're going to be on 4 for a few more years. But yeah, it would have been a lot of fun to see an 18 playoff this year, or even 6, as you pointed out. It would have allowed some more teams in a very odd year and in some ways unequitable year to have a chance to participate. But they didn't ask me, so we got 4. Open look. Those shots were falling for Jackson State in the first half. They were 50% from downtown, and not so much in the second. It's been a whole lot of that front iron off the mark. And without that, and without a whole lot of buckets inside, it's paved the way for a convincing victory for Mississippi State. Smith, a little bit of a force. And an offensive rebound by Quentin Post.
You know, you mentioned Jackson State and their struggles in this second half, but, you know, you got to give them credit. They picked 4th, and when I talked to Coach Wayne Brent, I asked him, I said, how do you feel like you all are going to do in the SWAC? He said, if we're healthy, we think that we'll finish in the top of the league and can potentially win the league. And so as you go through challenges, not only in the SWAC, but across the country in college basketball, I think that's the mindset that people have to have. What can you gain positive regardless of what adversity you're facing going through the year? And I think Jackson State has done a good job of doing that tonight.
If we're going to give love to Jackson State, I can't mention Jackson State without thinking about one of my favorite NFL players of all time, an alum of Jackson State, one Walter Payton. Sweetness, Damian Fishback.
No doubt.
Under 3 minutes to go. Bulldogs well on their way to their 3rd consecutive win. That is Andrew Junkin, and Junkin gets the basket.
Big fella. Love that smile. This is what college basketball is about.
And how about that? It's Andrew Junkin's birthday. They were singing happy birthday in the crowd earlier. So the young man out of New Hope, Mississippi, just got a birthday present. Garcia with a reverse layup.
Anderson Garcia out of Dominican Republic gives them a little bit more depth at the wing/interior spot. I like his mobility.
Junkin feeling it. It'll be a jump ball. And the arrow goes to Jackson State. Light a candle for Andrew Junkin. Light 2 for this bucket.
Look at that flex on him, big fella.
Showing the pipes. Showing the pipes was Andrew Junkin after that bucket. Oh, goodness. Might as well have some fun this time of the game. This will make it even more fun. That was on line, just a little bit short out of the hand of Derek Fountain. Again, Dayton will be the next opponent. Quality opponent out of the Atlantic 10. That'll be on Saturday in Atlanta on a neutral floor. Mississippi State will open up conference play on December the 30th. That'll be at Georgia. And then game number 2. Oh, it's always fun when Kentucky comes to town. Big Blue Nation will be in Starkville on January 2nd. You see the schedule. Dayton, Central Arkansas, the fighting Scottie Pippens, right? Mississippi Valley State, Georgia, and Kentucky. Final minute in Starkville.
Mike, you mentioned teams that even though they lost maybe what people would consider more talented players or pros, look better to me. Georgia's one of those teams that even though they lost the #1 draft pick, did he just go between his legs?
I think he did.
Without putting it on the floor?
I think he did. We're getting a lot of showtime here in the final 2 minutes.
But Georgia's one of those teams like Florida that I think are actually better teams as a cohesive unit this year than they were last year.
I
They've got more
completely
buy-in.
agree. With all due respect to the #1 pick in the draft, I think this year they are a lot more connected. And what we hope will be the final whistle with 16.7 seconds left. I can't wait to see Tennessee play. I want to see what Jerry Stackhouse has at Vanderbilt this year. You know, they lost a really good player in Neesmith, a lottery pick, but I like some of the young players that they had coming back in Nashville, and another year to get acclimated with Jerry's system.
Look at that. I told you, Mike. See? He hit him with the jab, then went between the legs without the dribble.
Fish, I don't know if I've seen the jab between the legs, but no movement.
Not
just a show-me move. Yeah, that is. We got hot sauce coming next. Get the whole and one tour going. Oh, my. Mississippi State winning this one in convincing fashion. Third in a row now for the Bulldogs. They're healthy, more confident, and playing some better basketball. Damian Fishback, some final thoughts.
Well, Iverson Molinar is back, and we talked about him and Stewart being a Batman and Robin. I think they can switch those roles. He was the Batman tonight. Just too big and too strong was Mississippi State. A great job and a nice outing by the Bulldogs.
Fish, it's always an honor to be Robin to your Batman. I thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Checks in the mail, buddy.
We'll see you in Atlanta, partner. Good job tonight. Good job to Mississippi State. We're out of here. So long. Take it away, SEC Now.
Back a spot and Georgia back a spot. In general, what jumps out to you?
Well, I think that if you're in the group of 5 this year, as much as everything is different for everybody else, for you,